Continue with the book of Zechariah up to the 9th chapter, and here things change a little bit as well. Masad dvar Adonai be'eretz chadrach v'damesek menuchato. So this is a masa, a pronouncement, perhaps even a burden, but we'll see it's not such a burden, the word of God. And presumably is referring to God, that God will reside in Chadrak, and his place of rest is Damesek. All of the people, the Ein Adam, the people will turn towards God like all the tribes of Israel. Remember in the last chapter, we talked about Bnei Israel establishing a society that was just, that was peaceful, that was equitable, that was fair. It wasn't just the Jews, but the rest of the world would come and grab onto, right? 10 Gentiles would grab onto the Jew to say, let me go with you to Jerusalem to seek out God. So here, this is what it says. There's debate in the Midrash literature about, is Chadrach a real place or not? What does this refer to? Either way. Verse 2, V'gam Chamat tigbalba, Tzor v'Tzidon ki chachmamod, including Chamat, which borders on that land, and Tyre and Sidon, though they are very wise. So these places as well. What it's saying is that these places, sort of their borders will be attached to Jerusalem. That exactly what that means, whether that means, they'll be attached in a figurative sense, that they'll look to Jerusalem as their big brother, as their leader, as the person that they should follow, or does it mean literally that Jerusalem will be so large that it's as if Tzor and Sidon, which are not super far, but far away. It's not like you're going all the way to London or something, but they will be neighbors. So Tyre, Tzor, built fortresses and amassed silver like dust. And we've seen that before about Tyre, this former island, which was connected to the mainland, I believe by Alexander the Great to conquer it, right? And has gold like mud in the streets. It's been described as being a very, very wealthy city, and a city that, at least in certain points, was denigrated in the Tanakh because they took advantage of the destruction of Jerusalem, perhaps sold Jews into slavery, all sorts of different reasons to why they, in earlier books, were really denigrated and told they would have terrible punishments. Hine Adonai Yorishena vihi kam bayam chela vihi ba'esh te'achel. But God will make her gur. Her forces will be defeated in the Yam, in the sea, and she herself will be consumed by fire. Teireh Ashkelon v'tira va'aza v'tachil me'od v'ekron kiovish me'bata v'yavad melech me'aza v'Ashkelon lo teshev. So now we turn to the areas of Gaza, where there were 5 cities of Gaza, Ekron, and Ashkelon, and Ashdod, and Gat. We talked about different cities in the past. And here we start with Ashkelon. Ashkelon will see it and be frightened. Gaza will tremble. Ekron will collapse. There will be no more kings of the Melech of Aza. There will be no more kings of Aza, and Ashkelon will be desolate. V'yashav mamzer ba'ashdod. Here we've gone now to Ashdod, right, the other city, and the people who be living in Ashdod will be mamzerim. Does this mean literally sort of halachic bastards? Does it just mean people who are barbarians? Unclear exactly how to read it, but it's showing that the society is going backwards. Vichrati gaon plishtim, I will uproot the gaon, the glory. The English here says grandeur of the Philistine. We learned what we've had, and we think about it with the word gaon. We're talked about the gaon Yaakov or the gaon Yisrael in previous books, about how the glory, the grandeur, the reputation of Bnei Yisrael due to the destruction was going to be diminished or destroyed. And here we see it the opposite, to their enemies. Vasirotiv damav mipiv v'shukatzav mibein shinav v'neshar gamhu le'eloheinu v'aya ke'aluf biyuda v'ekron kivusi. But I will come and I will remove the blood from its mouth and the shikutzav, the disgusting stuff from his teeth. And he will, be alone. He will remain to our God and be like an aluf, and aluf means a clan, a group. It's one of these great, sort of ideas in the Torah going back, where it talks about 600,000 men of left Mitzrayim between the ages of 20 and 60, which would make the population of Bnei Israel over 3 million, which seems fairly impossible based upon ancient world and based upon a lack of archaeological evidence whatsoever. And one of the arguments that's made is that the word Elef there in the Torah doesn't mean 1,000, but it means an aluf. It means a clan. It's kind of hard to read into the verses, but we mean there would be 600 clans of Bnei Israel who left Egypt between the ages of 20 and 60, as opposed to 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60. How many people are in a clan? I don't know, 50. So 50 26-year-old men, maybe 50, 26-year-old women, 20 people older than that, 20 people younger than that. But it's a completely different explanation to try to explain how it's possible that 70 became 600,000, which is a very, very difficult thing to do unless you're having about 20 babies a year in multipliers. So just something on the side about the word aluf. Okay, so Ekron. So here we see the destruction of the Philistines. V'chaniti leveti mitzava me'over u'mishav lo yavor aleim od no geis ki ata re'iti ve'enai. So my armies will be camped against them, and no longer will they come and be a sort of a thorn in the side, an oppressor, because now my eyes are on it. God is saying, I've allowed it to happen on my watch. I'm not going to allow it to happen anymore. Okay, verse 9, pasuk 10. So now we turn from the destruction of the enemies. Let's go to another place. Gilima od bat Zion. So now we're going from the destruction of the enemies, or the enemies are going to be subservient. They're going to be like the neighbors of Jerusalem and looking up towards Jerusalem. So now rejoice, the daughter of Zion, or fair Zion. Hari bat Yerushalayim. Call out the daughter of Jerusalem. Hine malkech yavolach, sadik v'no shahu. Your king is coming to you. He is victorious. He is righteous. Okay, so who is this malkech? That's a difficult word to understand who it's referring to. The majority of commentators say this is not Zerubbabel, this is not a regular king, this is not a prophecy of Zechariah for his time, this is a prophecy for the future. And with the image that we're about to get is one that you're probably familiar with from pictures in Haggadot and other places. Okay, who is this righteous man? Who is this person of salvation? Ani V'rochev al chamor v'al ayer ben atonot. Who is this person? He is a humble person riding on a donkey. Okay, on a donkey that's together with atonot, with others. So the you've seen this image, you've seen this idea of the Messiah is going to come in on a donkey, humble. And you think about it compared to the beginning of this book would be a good way to think about it. A donkey is not quite a horse. The book starts with the horsemen on top of the horse with the different, the 4 horses in total. Does it refer to the 4 different great kingdoms? Is it some sort of allusion to Alexander the Great here, as some have said and said in other books, riding on a great horse? Is it some other great leader? Our Messiah is going to be different. He's going to be poor. Those have said, if he's so poor, why does he even have a donkey? The Maharal Me Prague, in explaining this verse, says that the word chamor is the word chomriut, which means sort of materialism. And when it means that he's riding on the materialism, he doesn't care about materialism. He's above it. It's a person who's above materialism, doesn't care about things like that. That's who the person of the Messiah will be. Somebody who is, somebody who has mastered that part of their life, that materialism, possessions don't really matter to them. They're above that. And that's the type of person who can lead Bnei Israel further if they're creating a society that's just and equitable. Continuing in verse 10, he will banish chariots from Ephraim and horses from Yerushalayim. So why is this? Either, one way of looking at it is there's no war. So we don't need these the horses and the and the chariots, which in the past are used. We see them in war, sus v'rachvo, going back all the way back to Egypt. The horses and the chariots that were swallowed up by the sea. Could also see it as a sense of humility. If that chamor represents humility, then that's why he's getting rid of them. It's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is like the first, like we're saying, it's much more about a peace, which seems to be, if the verse continues, right? What else is going to remove the bow of war, right? They're not going to be bow and arrows. They're not going to be weapons. And he will speak peacefully to the Gentiles. And his rule will extend from sea to sea and from one ocean all the way to the next ocean. What are these seas? What are these oceans? It's not always clear. It's just sort of, I would say it's understood as being a statement of how great the empire will be. There are those who say, it's from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. The same way, we'll have with rivers, it goes from the Jordan to all the way to the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley. So there are different explanations that are given by that. But mostly what's important about it is the fact that this is a peaceful kingdom, and it's a kingdom that's going to be run in a way of peace, in a way of humility, in a way that's equitable, and thus it's going to expand, and everybody's going to want to be its neighbor. Everybody's going to want to be next to it. Gam at, we're in verse 11. B'dam britech shalachti asirech mibor ein mayim bo. Okay, for you, I have released your prisoners from the pit for the sake of the blood of your covenant, right? So this is a bore that's ein mayim bo, a bore without water. They're imprisoned. A pit with water, what's the difference between a pit with water and a pit without water? So a pit with water, maybe you drown in. A pit without water is not. But it's saying Bnei Israel who have the Brit, the Dam Brit, have the covenant with God, they will be released from the exile, from the punishment. Shuvu levitzaron asirei hatikva. Return to bitzaron. And this is an important phrase for Zionists and whatnot. Asirei hatikva, you prisoners of hope. Gam hayom magid mishneh ashiv lach. I will announce on this day that I will pay you double if you return. So right here, this phrase asirei hatikva, of course, we know tikva, the hatikva, the national anthem, the idea that we were prisoners in the exile for so many years, but what kept us alive? Hatikva, hope to return to Jerusalem, hope to return to Israel under God's rule and under autonomy, not with just the the other nations that are in charge of us. Okay, so let's continue. Ki darachti li Yehuda keshet mileti Ephraim v'orarti v'nayich Tzion al banayich Yavan v'samticha kecherev gibor. I've drawn for Judah, and I've applied my hand to Ephraim. I will wake you up, sons of Zion, against the sons of Yavan, and I will make you like a warrior's sword. So here too, you could ask the question: how are you writing here? The Greeks aren't really. When was Alexander the Great? Was about the year 330, 340. I could be wrong. According to tradition, this is about 180 years before that. So is it referring to that? It's unclear. V'Adonai alehem Yera'ev yatzak v'arach chitzov Adonai Elohim b'shofar yitakav alach b'sarot teman. Maybe you recognize that pasuk from Rosh Hashanah. God will be manifest, will be seen like arrows that flash like lightning. God will sound the ram's horn, and God will arrive in a great storm, right? God is going to change everything in this chapter that begins with this destruction of these civilizations, of these societies, of these people who think they're very, very strong. God is going to destroy that, and that's going to cause, of course, the Jerusalem to raise its profile, its reputation, its gaon. And so, okay. Adonai tzvot yagen aleim v'achlu v'chavsu avnei kela v'shatu hamu kamo yayin u'melo kimizrach zaviot mizbeach. God will protect them with slings, and God will devour and conquer the enemy, and they will drink, right? They'll drink rage as with wine. We've talked so many times, mostly in relation to Bnei Yisrael, as being this idea of being drunkard and drunk. And they will fill it like a bowl, like the corners of an altar, right? So this destruction that's going to happen, Bnei Yisrael are going to come and they're just going to lap everything up. God will save them on that day because they are his people, they are his tzon, they are his flock that he has to shepherd, and they are like jewels glittering on God's adamah, on God's soil. Avnei nezer kimat tovu ma yafyo dagan bachurim v'tiroshi novav betulot. How beautiful, how goodly, how beautiful it will be. The young men are going to be like grain, like dagan, and the young women will be like wine. So here we see in this chapter a very large, a very great change. Seemingly, Zechariah A is not talking to his generation. He's talking about something that's in the future. That's what it's generally understood. You might say that he's talking about the Second Temple period and it didn't come true, as we said earlier with his prophecies, earlier with some of the prophecies of Haggai. But presumably he's talking to a future generation. And the most significant thing in this chapter in our Jewish tradition is this idea of the Mashiach being rochev, that he is on the donkey and that he is an ani, that he is somebody who is humble. There are lots of people all over Tanakh who are riding on donkeys. Bathsheba when she meets David, Moshe, Bilam, lots of different people. So we can't sort of understand what it means to specifically to ride on a donkey, if that means a specific thing in the Tanakh, because it's a wide variety of different people who ride on them. But for us here, the big difference is somebody who is humble. As the way ani is understood by many, is not relating to the idea of him being poor, but rather being an anav, rather being somebody who is modest. So Zechariah said it a long time ago. We wait for it certainly to come true.